Hey guys, welcome back to GX Story Sleeping. Tonight we take a long sunburnt walk across 3,000 kilometers of medieval misery to see just how badly you'd fare on the treacherous road to Jerusalem. Picture this. You're not in a cozy bed, but trudging down a dirt path that once saw thousands of wide-eyed, underprepared pilgrims trying to reach the Holy Land. You're wrapped in a wool tunic that scratches like 1,000 mosquito bites, and you're carrying a sack with exactly one piece of moldy bread, a half-rusted knife, and hope. The sun's high, your socks are wet, and your stomach has already started composing protest letters. Spoiler, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And, hey, drop your location and local time in the comments, just so I know who's winding down with me tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You set out from somewhere near Dijon, France, one chilly April morning in the late 1100s. It smells faintly of wet hay, cow sweat, and bad decisions. You've joined a group of other hopefuls, some well-meaning pilgrims, others sketchier sorts with oddly sharp knives. You've all been blessed by a local priest who couldn't make eye contact and seemed far too eager to get you out of town. The road stretches out before you. Just dirt, dust, and the occasional cart track. There's no grand farewell, no fanfare. Just your feet, your fear, and that one guy coughing suspiciously behind you. Within hours, your boots, which you bought from a merchant who swore they were made with Roman leather, have rubbed your heels raw. Blisters bloom. Your feet are now tiny medieval crime scenes. But you can't stop because the group moves fast. And if you fall behind, well, no one's looking to babysit the slow one. You pass through tiny villages, some no more than clusters of timber huts that reek of smoke and onions. Children throw stones at you. Chickens stare with judgment. A woman tries to sell you a rabbit foot for luck, but you can tell it's actually a rat's paw dyed pink. Already you're learning a vital truth of medieval pilgrimage. The road is less of a highway to holiness, and more of a never-ending, mud-slicked obstacle course. Now, you may have imagined other pilgrims being noble and kind, but medieval reality check. Some are drunks, escaping debt. Others are criminals, promised a pardon if they walk it off. You overhear one man say he's headed east not for salvation, but because he owes too many goats to too many people in Normandy. And as you limp past the third beggar who hurls insults when you don't give him bread, you begin to suspect this journey isn't going to be all warm fires and divine light. Historically, these pilgrimages became especially popular after Pope Urban VI called for the First Crusade in 1095. By the time you're setting off, it's become a spiritual trend with real consequences. You're not just walking for penance, you're entering a complex network of political promises, economic grifts, and genuine faith. And possibly lice. Lots of lice. You see crosses carved into trees, left by those who passed before you. Some bear messages in Latin, prayers, or ominous warnings like, "Don't drink the river." You decide not to. As the sun dips low, the group looks for a place to sleep. There are no inns this far out, just open fields and the occasional half-rotted barn. You pick a patch of grass and try to ignore the fact that it smells like goat urine. Your only comfort is the starry sky and the knowledge that day one is over. Only about 98 more to go, assuming you live that long. By sunrise, your legs ache like they've been beaten with sticks, and your feet feel like overcooked dumplings, blistered, bloated, and thoroughly betrayed. You haven't even gone 20 miles, and your joints are filing early retirement papers. Still, onward, because you're technically a pilgrim now, and that means no turning back, unless you want to face the public humiliation of crawling home and explaining to your neighbors why your faith journey lasted roughly the length of a country stroll. But things don't stay quiet for long. Not far down the road, you hear shouting. A loud argument has broken out among your little caravan. One man accuses another of stealing dried figs. The accused man claims he found them abandoned, next to the fire. There is a scuffle. Someone draws a dagger. You find yourself slowly backing away and pretending to be very interested in a nearby cow. Here's the thing no one tells you. The road to Jerusalem isn't packed with saints. In fact, you're probably walking beside a cut purse, a runaway monk, and at least one woman pretending to be a man to avoid the extra baggage of medieval morality. Bandits, too, are a regular hazard, especially in the dense woods just beyond Lion. These aren't the merry kind who sing songs in the forest. No, these are the silent ones who wait until you're separated from your group, then relieve you of your coin, shoes, or kidneys, depending on mood and opportunity. You hear of a group a few days ahead that was robbed at knife point. One man lost everything, including his wooden spoon and his pants. That night, around the campfire, you clutch your own spoon a little tighter. The terrain doesn't help. Mud sucks at your boots like it's trying to keep you for itself. You try to step on rocks, roots, anything solid, but they all seem to lurch out from under you like medieval banana peels. By mid-morning, your once shiny pilgrim badge is dull with grime, and the rope you tied around your waist for modesty is giving you a rash you can feel in your soul. And then come the moral tests. A man in a brown cloak stumbles out of the trees and begs for water. His lips are cracked like dry parchment, and he smells like death reheated. You give him your last sip out of guilt, only to watch him promptly vomit it back up. As it turns out, he's got the bloody flux, a medieval term for dysentery, and you just shared a flask with him. Congratulations. You might not die today, but your insides may begin rehearsing. One mainstream historical record mentions that pilgrim groups often had informal codes of conduct, but these fell apart almost immediately. When the road gets long and food gets scarce, morals are the first thing left behind in the mud. What you're experiencing is less of a holy mission and more of a medieval episode of Survivor, minus the camera crew and with significantly more body odor. That evening, a drunken man tries to preach at you. His sermon is mostly burps and threats, with a little fire and brimstone thrown in. Someone throws a radish at him. It hits you instead. You lie back on your damp cloak, staring at the stars, wondering if they look different from this low to the ground. They don't. But at least up there, no one's trying to sell you fake relics or stolen cheese. You're bruised, blistered, bitten, and already morally compromised, and you haven't even left the Kingdom of France. A scholarly debate still lingers about how organized these early pilgrimages actually were. Some say they followed strict way stations. Others suggest most people winged it entirely, hoping divine guidance was stronger than their sense of direction. You, unfortunately, fall into the latter camp. As you drift into a restless sleep, you hear wolves howling in the distance, or possibly just one of the snorers in your group. Either way, you pull your bag a little closer. Tomorrow, they say, will be easier. But people say a lot of things. Morning brings dew, stiff limbs, and the rich aroma of someone cooking turnips way too early. You stretch, wince, and try to convince your knees to bend like they used to before you decided to walk across a continent. Today's goal is a monastery you've heard about, a place where pilgrims can rest, wash their feet, and maybe even sleep on something that doesn't resemble a sack of rocks. As the group lurches forward, there's cautious optimism. Monks are supposed to be kind, right? Hospitable, peaceful. By late afternoon, you see it rising on a low hill. Stone walls, a simple chapel, and a low wooden gate. It's not exactly a palace, but compared to the ditch you slept in last night, it's Versailles. The gatekeeper monk is not what you expect. He has one eyebrow and the enthusiasm of a turnip. He opens the gate like he's doing you a personal favor, one he instantly regrets. Inside, the courtyard smells of sheep and cabbage. A few chickens strut around like they own the place. You're shown to a room, or rather, a dim chamber with hay spread thin across the floor, and two fleas who clearly believe they have squatters' rights. You lie down and instantly regret it. Something is moving in the hay. Multiple somethings. Now here's the quirky part. Some medieval monasteries had strict rules about hospitality, including designated pilgrim days. Others, especially those along major routes like the Via Francigena, saw so many passersby they developed an assembly line attitude toward guests. You're not a soul in search of a peace here. You're item Sector 97 in today's intake. The food is edible, mostly. A watery stew with something floating in it, possibly lentils, possibly an old sock. You eat it anyway. Hunger doesn't ask questions. As you dine in silence under a wooden beam with a dead bat hanging upside down from it, a monk passes out small relics for protection. You're handed what's claimed to be a splinter of the true cross. It looks suspiciously like it came from a broom handle. Still, You accept it reverently. At this point, you'll take all the protection you can get. Later that evening, you try to wash up in a stone basin filled with water that smells like it's already met too many other pilgrims. There's a bar of soap, or something like it, that immediately crumbles into gray powder when you pick it up. The towel is moss. Just moss. Historically, monks played a key role in aiding travelers, but resources were limited. Some had infirmaries, herbalists, even apothecaries. Others barely had enough clean linen to wrap a wound, let alone host 100 weary strangers. And then there were the less enthusiastic ones, who saw pilgrims more as burdens than blessings. A scholarly debate exists around how genuinely hospitable these institutions were. Some accounts paint glowing portraits of charitable monks who shared wine and wisdom. Others suggest the real reason monks shaved the tops of their heads was to keep from tearing their hair out when the 50th sick pilgrim arrived before lunch. That night, someone in the next cot starts coughing violently. Not a gentle, I'm clearing my throat kind of cough. More like a, I've been possessed by the spirit of a haunted windmill sort of situation. You bury your head in your tunic, praying not for spiritual enlightenment, but for respiratory immunity. Sleep comes in patches. You're either too cold, too itchy, or too concerned about that one monk who keeps staring at everyone like he's trying to memorize faces for a future inquisition. You dream of soft pillows and fresh bread. You wake up to a goat chewing your blanket. The next morning, you're offered a blessing and a half-stale hunk of bread to continue your journey. You bow, thank the monks politely, and leave scratching more than just your head. Somewhere behind you, the gate creaks shut. You won't miss it, but a small part of you wonders how many more nights like this are ahead. Spoiler, too many. The sun climbs lazily into the sky as you leave the monastery behind, your stomach half full of crusty bread and mysterious broth. Your back still aching from that glorious haybed. It's a new day, and you try to convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, it'll be better than the last. That optimism lasts until midday. You're walking beside an older man with a silver cross hanging from his neck. He seems kind, steady, the sort of person who actually reads the Psalms instead of just mumbling through them. He hands you a tiny cloth bundle, unwrapping it to reveal a tiny bone fragment set in glass. A relic, he says reverently, of Saint Simeon. Carry it with you. It will keep you safe. Touched by the gesture and half delirious from sun and soreness, you thank him and pin it to your cloak. The man blesses you, then coughs into his hand, wipes it on his robe, and continues walking. It's not until hours later that you hear someone whisper, "Don't touch him. He's a leper." Your hand shoots to your cloak, now marked with his blessing and perhaps a dash of something far less divine. Leprosy, or Hansen's disease as we now know it, wasn't entirely understood in the Middle Ages. Some thought it was divine punishment, others believed it was spread by sin, and a few, mostly in fringe medical circles, thought it came from eating too many figs. Either way, lepers were feared and often isolated in leper colonies, or forced to wear bells to warn others of their approach. But out on the road, you're all just humans in ragged cloaks looking for shelter. The line between sick and sanctified gets blurred pretty fast. You try not to panic, but every itch on your skin suddenly feels like the beginning of something. That bump on your arm, definitely a holy pustule of doom. Later that day, a merchant caravan passes by, and one of their guards eyes you suspiciously. You keep your hood up and pretend not to exist. Still, there's something strangely comforting about the way pilgrims protect each other, or at least try. Someone offers you vinegar water to cleanse the blood, and another rubs garlic on your hands to ward off bad humors. You smell like a cursed salad, but at least people stop sitting too close. By dusk, you stop at a roadside shrine, a crude wooden cross surrounded by pebbles and offerings. Someone's left a loaf of bread there. You and another pilgrim eye it warily. Is it an act of charity or a test of divine restraint? You both decide it's neither. Hunger wins. After you share the loaf and agree not to tell anyone, the man introduces himself as Bernard. He's from Aragon and carries a scroll he claims is a map to a hidden relic near Jerusalem. You're not sure if he's a visionary or just extremely sun-baked, but he's good company. He tells you a fringe story, probably apocryphal, about a German knight who once met an angel on this very road disguised as a beggar. The knight gave him a crust of bread and was rewarded with gold the next day. You look around. No angels. Just a farmer relieving himself in a bush. That night, you make camp under a tree that drips something vaguely suspicious every few minutes. As you settle in, Bernard sings a hymn quietly. It's comforting, almost peaceful, until you remember that you may or may not be carrying a piece of bone blessed by a man whose skin was falling off. Sleep comes slowly. You dream of relics glowing and cloaks covered in sores. You wake up biting your own knuckle, heart racing, breath caught in your throat. Whether or not that man was truly a leper remains an open debate. Because in the Middle Ages, anyone with a skin condition might be labeled as such. You might be fine, or you might be halfway to losing your nose. Only time, and possibly divine intervention, will tell. The next leg of your journey feels like you're playing some kind of divine roulette. With rocks, rain, and a poorly drawn map, you reach what should be a turning point near the Alpine foothills, a place you've heard described in passing as where the roads divide. Bernard squints at the fork ahead, his scroll flapping in the wind like it's trying to escape responsibility. To the left, the path leads through a well-known trade route toward Genoa. To the right, a quieter trail promises fewer tolls and shorter time, according to a toothless man who's charging 5 deniers for the advice. Bernard flips a coin. You go right. Bad move. Within an hour, the road narrows to little more than a goat track. Patches of bog greet your feet with a cheerful squelch, and every few meters, you're attacked by brambles with the enthusiasm of a territorial cat. You'd laugh if your socks weren't soaked with what you hope is just mud. You stumble into a hillside village, if it even qualifies as one. More like 6 stone huts and a barrel labeled inn. The locals eye you with the same suspicion you'd reserve for someone licking doorknobs. Bernard waves cheerfully. You try not to breathe too loud. A grizzled man points you toward the local official. You need a pass to continue through the next valley, apparently. You explain you're just passing through, a humble pilgrim. He explains that in this region, pilgrims still pay a light administrative fee. How light? You ask. He names a number. You blink. That's more than you have. Bernard offers him one of his sandals and a button. He laughs. And then, of course, he takes them. Turns out, this stretch of northern Italy is notorious in historical records for exploiting pilgrims, especially those dumb enough to take the shortcut. Some towns charge for walking on the roads, others tax by weight. Yes, your own body. There's even a fringe account of one village requiring pilgrims to perform a spiritual dance as payment. You pray this isn't one of them. Instead, the man assigns you both to temporary labor. You spend the next day hauling firewood, sweeping a church floor with what looks like a tree branch, and shoveling what might generously be called manure. Bernard sings the entire time. You question his sanity, then your own. As you scrub mud from your arms that evening, a woman leans out a window and tosses a damp cloth at you. To wipe your sins, she mutters. You're not sure if it's charity or an insult. Either way, you use it. The good news, you're fed. The bad news, it's a bowl of boiled barley with a single sad beet floating in it like it lost a bet. You slurp it in 3 spoonfuls and pretend to be grateful. That night, you and Bernard are given a haystack inside a barn. It's warm, but something in the corner makes a hissing sound. Whenever you move, you decide not to investigate. According to one ongoing scholarly debate, it's unclear just how standardized the pilgrim experience was in places like northern Italy. Some towns documented detailed pilgrim records and provided structured lodging. Others, like this gem of a place, seem to view you more as a traveling coin purse with legs. At dawn, you're handed a receipt, a square of parchment with a crude drawing of a chicken and an X. Apparently, it proves you've paid your dues and are now free to leave. You don't argue. Feet aching, wallet lighter, Bernard down one sandal, you trudge east again, reminded that the road to Jerusalem is not a straight path. It's more like a scribbled line made by a monk having a really bad day. Still, you're learning. Mostly how to sleep with one eye open, and how to negotiate with someone who only has 4 teeth but wields all the power. The mountains rise like stone gods before you, cold, jagged, and absolutely disinterested in your fragile human plans. You've hit the Alps. Not the postcard kind. These are the medieval ones, back when the roads were less road and more hopeful goat trails etched by frostbite. Your legs already feel like overcooked pasta. The air grows colder with every step upward, and the damp cloak on your back now feels like you're wearing a moldy sponge. Bernard, still sandalless on one foot, keeps humming a hymn that's supposed to ward off frost spirits. You silently hope it works on twisted ankles too. Welcome to the Alpine Pass, where your breath fogs with every exhale, and every rock you step on seems like it was placed specifically to insult your arch support. You expected snow. What you didn't expect was the avalanche of regret that comes when your path disappears under a sudden whiteout. The pilgrims behind you vanish into the swirling fog, and all you hear is the sound of your own crunching footsteps, and Bernard somewhere up ahead yelling, "I think this is the right way." Spoiler, it is not. You spend an hour doubling back, slipping down a slope, and at one point narrowly avoid being flattened by a goat carrying an entire sack of salt. It gives you a look that says, "You chose this life." Eventually, you stumble across a ridge shelter. If you can call a few slabs of stone and a leaking thatch roof shelter. But it's better than curling up with an icicle for company. You and Bernard build a tiny fire, using twigs and one page from his precious scroll, a choice he claims is sacrificing knowledge for warmth. You eat what's left of the dried turnips. They've frozen into little rock-hard chips of sadness. A traveling monk joins you under the shelter, his robe wrapped in layers of wool. He offers you a sip of wine from a wooden flask. It tastes like vinegar and herbs, but it burns going down, and that's all you care about. He tells you a fringe tale, that this pass was once guarded by mountain spirits who guided the pure of heart and tripped the wicked. Judging by your current bruises, you're apparently halfway to eternal damnation. Historically, Alpine crossings were brutal. Charlemagne himself allegedly lost thousands of men trying to move armies through them. Pilgrims had it worse. No uniforms, no maps, and often no clue. Some routes did have shelters built by hospitable orders like the monks of the Great St. Bernard Hospice, but more often you'd find a weather-beaten shack and hope the previous tenant wasn't still frozen inside. That night, the wind screams like it's auditioning for a horror ballad. You shiver, wrapping every spare scrap of cloth around your limbs. Bernard snores loudly, sounding like a medieval accordion in distress. You envy his oblivion. Come morning, your boots are stiff as boards, your fingers barely bend, and your breath curls out in puffs as you hike onward. Every step feels like climbing the world's angriest staircase. Then, finally, you reach the summit. The wind slaps your face in congratulations. Below, the valleys of northern Italy stretch out like a cracked quilt of gray and green. You don't feel victorious. You feel mostly frostbitten. One scholarly theory suggests that those who survived the Alps returned home permanently changed. Not just in body, but in mindset. Something about facing the literal high points of the earth strips away delusion. You're not sure if you've gained enlightenment, but you have definitely lost all feeling in your toes. As you begin the descent, sliding more than walking, you cling to the hope that the worst is behind you. It's not, but for a fleeting moment, you smile, teeth chattering because you've made it this far, and because Bernard just fell into a snowbank headfirst and emerged shouting that he found a relic. It's a goat skull. You both decide not to bring it. Your boots squelch as the snow turns to slush, and the air thickens with the scent of wet earth, rotting leaves, and something else. Something sweet, cloying, and deeply wrong. You're out of the Alps now, slipping down into the warmer valleys of northern Italy. At first, the change feels like a blessing. The sun peeks out, the wind softens, and you start to remember what it's like to have feeling in your nose. Then you hear the flies. Dozens, hundreds, a high, constant drone, like a hymn hummed by something that's never seen the light. You round a bend and find the valley floor carpeted in death. A makeshift village lies ahead, mostly deserted, with collapsed thatched roofs and fire pits long gone cold. A few hunched figures shuffle around, but they don't call out. They don't wave. They watch. The smell is unbearable. Burnt herbs, open wounds, and human decay. You cover your mouth with a sleeve, but the stench seeps through. Bernard murmurs something about the plague wind, and your stomach drops. The Black Death is still a century away, but outbreaks of disease were already familiar horrors in medieval Europe. What you've walked into might be typhus, dysentery, or one of the countless unnamed fevers that swept through cramped, unwashed villages like a divine eraser. A gaunt man approaches. His eyes are sunken, skin pale and splotchy. He speaks in broken Latin, asking if you've brought the white water or blessed vinegar. You haven't. All you've got is a cracked water skin, 2 turnip ends, and a very awkward smile. You move on quickly, but not quickly enough. That night, your skin itches. You convince yourself it's just the hay, or maybe the fleas, or nerves. Definitely not plague. Bernard insists on sleeping uphill from the village. For airflow, he claims. More likely, he just wants to avoid any chance of shared airspace with the coughing locals. Smart man. You don't sleep much. Too busy swatting at phantom bugs and trying not to think about how your right eye is twitching in a very unholy rhythm. By morning, a red rash has bloomed across your left arm. You panic. You start writing a will in your head. It's mostly, please bury me far away from this place. But then the rash disappears after washing. Turns out it was just dirt, or possibly beet juice from yesterday's dinner. You're fine. Probably. For now. As you continue walking, you come across another strange scene. A man offering shaves and minor surgery under a tattered awning. A sign beside him reads, Barbarus et Sanitas. 1 coin, 2 services. He's sharpening a knife on what looks like a roof tile. Bernard, ever the enthusiast for questionable choices, pays for a beard trim. You watch as the barber cleans his tools by spitting on them and wiping with a bit of cloth tied to his ankle. You choose to keep your beard. Here's the quirky part. In the Middle Ages, barbers were also the local surgeons. They lanced boils, pulled teeth, and performed minor amputations, because who better to cut you open than someone trained to give haircuts? You overhear him offering to bleed a man with a cough, promising it will draw out the bad air. The man agrees. You try not to faint. This valley, this festering stretch of road, is a reminder that not all pain comes from the climb. Sometimes it waits at the bottom. Scholars still debate whether these medical practices did more harm than good. Some argue they were the best options available at the time. Others say they were little more than glorified guesswork. Watching Bernard flinch as the barber nicks his ear, you're inclined to agree with the latter. You move on, eager to leave the sickness and the shaving behind. As the sun dips low again, you find shelter beneath a crumbling aqueduct. The stone arches loom above like ancient ribs, and water drips steadily onto the packed dirt. It's not clean, it's not dry, but it's away from the coughing and the barber with suspicious toenail scissors. You close your eyes and breathe deep. You're still alive. Somehow, probably. The sky over Constantinople is a shimmering dome of gold and smoke, streaked with gulls that scream like they know every bad decision you've made to get here. You arrived on the back of a borrowed cart smelling like soup and fear, with Bernard at your side and exactly 1.5 copper coins between you. And yet, as you roll through the city gates, it hits you. This place isn't just another town on the map. It's the glowing, thieving, churning, beating heart of an empire. The city stuns you at first. Massive stone walls loom like mountains. Minarets rise like spears toward heaven. And the Hagia Sophia, my goodness. It's not a church. It's an ocean turned upside down, glittering in mosaics and mystery. You stop mid-stride and nearly get trampled by a goat. You've made it to Constantinople, jewel of the Byzantine Empire, and your coin pouch is now mysteriously empty. Pickpockets. Fast, silent, professional. You didn't feel a thing. One moment, you were marveling at a row of embroidered icons for sale. The next, you were flat broke and down a spoon. Who steals a spoon? Bernard claims he knows someone, a cousin of a friend of a priest, who might let you sleep on a fishing boat docked along the Bosphorus. You follow him through alleys that smell of salted fish, wine dregs, and last week's disappointment. The cousin turns out to be a woman named Anya, who charges you a blanket fee for the deck space. Literally, she charges you 1 copper coin per blanket. You sleep without one. Historically, Constantinople was a dazzling crossroads of east and west. Pilgrims passed through en route to Jerusalem, crusaders came with swords and questionable intentions, and merchants came with spices and stories. The city boasted aqueducts, hospitals, even underground cisterns, but it also had a reputation, especially among travelers, for being a place where fortunes changed hands quickly, often involuntarily. Bernard tries to earn a few coins by singing in Latin at a small plaza. A man throws him a peach pit. Someone else throws a shoe. You both take it as constructive feedback. You pass through a street market, eyes wide. There's saffron, silk, figs the size of your fist, and a man claiming to sell milk from the Virgin's cow. You politely decline. A boy offers to clean your boots for half a denier. You don't have half a denier. He offers to clean them for free, then runs off with one boot. You limp for the rest of the day. That evening, while trying to navigate back to Anya's boat, you find yourself lost in the Blackernay quarter. A group of armed men blocks your way. They wear badges you don't recognize and speak Greek with clipped urgency. Bernard offers his relic scroll. One of them laughs and shoves it into a puddle. Turns out, in this part of the city, you need paperwork. An official document from the patriarch or local authorities saying you're a sanctioned pilgrim. You, of course, have no such thing. They let you go after taking your belt, your second spoon, you had a backup, and what dignity you had left. You sleep that night beneath an overturned rowboat. Bernard snores again. You stare at the stars and wonder if it's too late to just become a monk in Bulgaria. There's still scholarly debate over how well pilgrims were actually treated in Constantinople. Some records describe generous aid, while others paint a picture of rampant exploitation. Judging by your current level of grime and spiritual trauma, you lean toward the latter. Still, you can't deny it. Constantinople is dazzling. Somewhere beneath the grime, the scams, and the smell of bad fish, you can feel the pulse of something ancient, something sacred. You glimpse mosaics that shimmer like sunlight on water, hear chants that send shivers down your spine, and taste figs so sweet they almost make up for the stolen boot. Almost. But your rest here is short, because the path south, through Anatolia, awaits. The desert, the dust, the heat, the distance. And Bernard, ever the optimist, says he knows a shortcut. You groan. The city gates reappear behind you. Your beltless tunic flaps awkwardly in the wind as you limp forward. Goodbye, Constantinople. May your pickpockets stub their toes forever. The stones beneath your feet are hot enough to fry an egg. If, that is, you still had any eggs left. You don't. You barely have water. What you do have is a leather flask full of something that once resembled water and now smells faintly of goat. Welcome to Anatolia. The terrain here is all dust, rock, and sharp wind. The sun doesn't shine so much as attack. It's the kind of sun that makes your shadow wilt in shame. You drape a rag over your head, squinting at the endless brown horizon, and wonder, for the 50th time today, why anyone ever thought this route was a good idea. Even Bernard is quiet. That's how bad it is. The first 2 days are brutal. You ration water like it's holy wine, sipping it drop by drop while trying not to think about how your tongue feels like a shredded parchment. Your boots, already ruined by snow and taxes, begin to fuse with your feet. There's sand in everything. In your shoes, your teeth, your thoughts. It crunches every time you blink. A group of fellow pilgrims trudges ahead, and you try to stay with them. Safety in numbers, you tell yourself. But these numbers are surly, dehydrated, and suspicious of newcomers. One woman eyes you like you might be a mirage. Honestly, you aren't even sure anymore. Then someone calls out, "Water." You rush forward with the others, hope fluttering in your chest, only to find a man sitting on a rock, grinning with about 4 teeth and offering miracle water for 1 silver coin. You sniff it. Definitely goat spit, or worse. You pass, and now your stomach starts to turn. Could be hunger, could be heat stroke, could be divine punishment for that time you kicked a goose in Burgundy. Whatever the cause, your world wobbles at the edges. Historically, pilgrims crossing Anatolia face not just dehydration and scorching heat, but the danger of raids, local conflicts, and misleading routes. Some paths were poorly marked, and others intentionally false, set up by opportunists who led pilgrims in circles, offering to rescue them for a fee. You stop in a tiny village at dusk, if you can call a cluster of mud huts and one half-dead fig tree a village. A man offers you a bowl of stew. You hesitate. It's murky and smells vaguely of shoe, but the locals are watching. You nod, smile, and sip. It's chewy. You spend the night curled in the shade of a broken fence, trying to ignore the way your stomach rumbles and that weird twitch your eye has developed. Bernard sleeps soundly, of course, and dreams of rivers. Loudly. In Latin. A passing trader tells you of a spring not far off the road. He warns of bandits, but says it's the clearest water for miles. You debate the risk. Then your lips crack when you try to smile. That settles it. You follow a side trail the next morning, down a gully lined with thorn bushes, and regret. The spring turns out to be a muddy trickle, but it's water. Real, cold water. You practically baptize yourself in it. That's when the bees arrive. Yes, bees. From some hidden hive in the rocks above, disturbed by your enthusiastic splashing. You run, you scream. Bernard flails with a stick. You fall into a cactus. It's all deeply spiritual. Later, as you pluck needles from your leg and slap at phantom bees, you reflect on the open debate among scholars about how accurate medieval maps really were. Many were based on hearsay, artistic flourishes, or divine inspiration, which is historians speak for completely made up. You've now walked 15 miles the wrong way, gained one thorn rash, and lost your only spoon again. The road stretches on. As the sky deepens into violet and the temperature plummets, you light a tiny fire using brushwood and Bernard's broken sandal. It burns fast and bitter, like most of your recent decisions. You lie back, cloak, pulled tight, and try to dream of the cool rivers and shade trees. But all you get is a nightmare involving bees, boots, and a man selling holy goat spit. And there's still so far to go. You wake to the sound of crunching, dry, deliberate footsteps on the gravel path. Your heart leaps. Bandits? Wolves? That one goat from Constantinople back for revenge? Nope, just a caravan. Traders, maybe 20 of them, winding their way toward Antioch. Their camels look better fed than you. One rider tosses you a date. It hits your forehead and bounces into the dust. You eat it anyway. The good news? You've made it to the outskirts of Syria. The bad news? The terrain has changed. Again, the land flattens out into a cracked crust of earth, the color of old parchment. The wind is warm, sharp, and constant, carrying dust straight into your eyes, ears, and soul. You pass the ruins of old Roman outposts, half-toppled columns, buried mosaics, and one broken statue of a man who looks just as annoyed as you feel. Bernard mutters something about the bones of martyrs buried nearby. You're not sure if he's being poetic or just really dehydrated. By midday, you stumble across a group of fellow travelers crouched beside a road marker. They're watching a man with a long stick poke at the ground. "What's he doing?" you whisper. "Scorpion," one replies. You decide not to sit. Syria's roads are known to be full of little surprises. Not all of them the fun kind. Scorpions, snakes, and the occasional rogue camel make for unpredictable company. One historical account describes pilgrims being told to sleep off the ground, if possible. You look at your bedroll, which is essentially a flattened oat sack, and laugh softly, then cry a little, but then, finally, you see it. Antioch, a real city, with walls, towers, smoke curling up from actual chimneys. You nearly fall to your knees, until you remember you won't get up again if you do. Antioch, once a thriving metropolis in Roman times, is now a gateway for those heading to Jerusalem. Merchants bustle through narrow lanes. Churches gleam with gold. And you're covered in dust, cactus scratches, and bee stings. You fit in surprisingly well. You find a small chapel run by Greek monks. They look you up and down, exchange a few words in hushed tones, and then hand you a basin of water. You wash your face. The water turns the color of stew. Bernard negotiates a place to sleep in the stables. It's filled with hay and drowsy oxen. You've never been so grateful for the scent of warm manure. That evening, a group of pilgrims gathers by torchlight to share stories. One man tells of being robbed in Cilicia and escaping by hiding in a hollow olive tree. A woman claims she met a saint disguised as a beggar. Bernard tells the bee story. Embellished, of course. You listen quietly, nursing a cup of something that tastes like burnt herbs and sweat. But it's warm, and your stomach doesn't immediately reject it. That's progress. There's an open scholarly debate about whether medieval pilgrims truly believed they'd make it to Jerusalem, or if the journey itself was the point. Tonight, as you lie in the hay, with ox breath gently wafting toward your nose, you start to understand why that debate exists. Because the road changes you. It strips you down. Body, pride, expectations, and replaces it all with calluses, stories, and a weird respect for donkeys. And as the bells of Antioch toll midnight, you feel something stir inside. Maybe it's purpose, maybe it's indigestion. Either way, tomorrow, you push on toward the final stretch. The Holy Land is near. You just hope it's as holy as advertised. The heat is back, but not the dry, whispering heat of Anatolia. No, this is the thick, wet embrace of the Levant, where every breath feels like sipping lukewarm soup through a wool sock. You've left Antioch behind, and now the road south winds along the coast toward Acre, with Jerusalem still a distant promise. You're sticky, permanently. The Sea of Galilee glimmers in the distance at one point, a mirage of movement and shimmer, but you're too tired to appreciate it. Your feet squish with every step, not because they're wet, but because your socks have become some kind of fermented stew of sweat, dust, and spiritual despair. Bernard, undeterred as ever, claims he can feel the sanctity in the air. You're mostly feeling blisters. The roads here are less roads, and more long flat insults, lined with scrub, stones, and the occasional olive grove. You pass small villages with mud-walled houses and curious children who ask if you've seen lions. You haven't, but knowing your luck, one's probably following you. A group of Armenian pilgrims joins your route the next morning. You don't share a language, but you nod, smile, and gesture toward Jerusalem, like a traveler playing charades with destiny. They smile back, equally exhausted, equally blistered. There's something comforting about mutual suffering. One of them gives you a dried fig. You try to chew it. You sprain your jaw. Still, there's beauty here. The land is older than you can comprehend, older than kingdoms, popes, or pilgrim routes. Every stone feels storied, every tree like a relic in its own right. You pass an ancient Roman mile marker with weeds growing from its cracks. A shepherd leans against it, chewing something green and bitter. He waves. You wave back. Then you step in something best left undescribed. One mainstream historical fact about this region: it was never just Christian. The Holy Land was a crossroads of faiths: Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Samaritan, each layering over the next like fragile pages in an ancient book. The closer you get to Jerusalem, the more languages, customs, and faiths you encounter, and each seems to think their version of the journey matters most. This causes tension in your little travel group. Bernard starts arguing with a man from Provence over whether to follow the Latin rite or the Byzantine path. You leave them bickering over directions while you look for a fig that doesn't crack your molars. As the sun begins to dip, you find a shaded grove where travelers have stacked small stones into towers, one for each prayer offered or each blister survived. You add your own stone, then a second, just in case. That night, the stars come out like silver pinpricks in black velvet. The ground is warm. You lie down on your cloak, head resting on your pack, and watch the sky rotate. Bernard hums a familiar hymn, soft and tuneless, and for a moment you feel almost content. Your legs are sore, your soul feels stretched, but you're here. You're really here. The Holy Land is near enough to taste. It tastes like dust, dates, and maybe, just maybe, redemption. There's an open scholarly debate about whether most pilgrims were transformed by the journey or just traumatized. At this point, you're probably both. But tomorrow, you walk into Jerusalem. That is, if nothing else tries to kill you first. You crest the final ridge just after dawn. The city rises out of the earth like a dream you've walked too long to believe. Jerusalem. Its sandstone walls catch the morning light, glowing gold and pink, and for a moment, your legs forget they've walked over mountains, deserts, and whatever that suspicious bog back in Italy was. You fall to your knees, not out of devotion, at least not entirely. Mostly, your legs have simply decided they're done negotiating. Bernard is crying beside you, soft and messy. You get it. After weeks of pain, theft, rashes, blisters, and at least one rodent-related incident, you've made it. You're here, the city of cities, the spiritual heart of three faiths, and probably still crawling with opportunists. You descend the path in silence, every step its own whispered prayer of, please don't collapse yet. The gates are crowded. Pilgrims, merchants, soldiers, and stray dogs, all vying for space. You inch your way forward, clutching your pouch tight. Not that there's much left in it. A couple bent coins, a tiny seashell someone said was from the Jordan River, and a ragged bit of your dignity. At the checkpoint, a city guard eyes your dusty cloak, your swollen feet, and your sunburnt everything. He waves you through with a look that says, "You've clearly suffered enough." Inside, the city feels both alive and ancient. Children run barefoot past crumbling walls, spice vendors call out in Arabic, Greek, and broken Latin, and bells ring from every corner. Incense clings to the air like perfume and memory. You are overwhelmed by the smells, the noise, the sheer sacred weight of it all. And then, there it is, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The place, the end, the reason you dragged your blistered body across a continent. It looms like a fortress carved from faith itself. Centuries of pilgrims have passed through these doors. Kings, monks, beggars, and now, somehow, you. You step inside. The light is dim, filtered through smoke and stained glass. People are weeping, whispering, kneeling. You don't know what to do. You feel both everything and nothing. You wait in line to touch the stone of anointing, where tradition says Christ's body was prepared for burial. When it's your turn, you place your hands gently on the cool, worn stone. It smells of oil and dust and centuries of longing. And you realize something. There is no booming epiphany, no lightning bolt of divine understanding. Just silence. Peaceful, heavy silence. You breathe. And that's enough. Historically, pilgrims who reached Jerusalem received a badge, often in the shape of a scallop shell or cross, marking them as having completed the journey. But badges wore out. Feet blistered again. Life continued. Later, in a narrow alley behind the church, you find a stall selling little clay flasks of Jordan water and holy earth. Bernard buys 3. You settle for a wooden cross that looks like it was carved with someone's teeth. You sleep that night in a crowded hostel run by Greek monks. There's a communal stew pot, and everyone adds something to it. You toss in a stale biscuit. Someone else drops in a whole onion. It somehow works. It tastes like survival. That evening, you sit on the rooftop, feet dangling over the edge, and watch the city glow beneath the stars. You hear prayer calls, bells, laughter. The stones hum with history. There's an ongoing scholarly debate about how authentic pilgrim experiences were, whether the physical journey truly brought people closer to the divine, or if it was all hardship wrapped in expectation. But here now, it doesn't matter, because you're not the same person who left home. You're bruised, burned, scarred, but you've walked through history, through storms, snow, and swindlers, and somehow you've arrived. It's not a miracle, but it's close enough. You could go home now. That's what everyone says. You've reached Jerusalem, touched the relics, cried a little, twice, and now you're technically free to turn around, limp back through all the places that tried to kill you, and hope your family still recognizes you under all the grime and trauma. But then you hear about the River Jordan. It's not far, they say. A day's walk, maybe 2, depending on how often your need decides to seize up. Pilgrims have bathed there for centuries, reenacting Christ's baptism. It's the final touch, a cleansing, a blessing, maybe a rinse-off for all the holy dirt you've accumulated. So you go. You and Bernard and 3 others set out at dawn. The path eastward is flat but harsh. The sun doesn't so much rise as pounce, turning the rocks white and the shade rare. Your canteen sloshes faintly. You ration it anyway, just in case. About halfway there, you pass a Bedouin camp. The children shout greetings. The adults offer tea that tastes like smoke and honey, and one man gives you a length of a palm rope for luck. You tie it around your wrist. That evening, you sleep beneath a fig tree with the stars once again peeking down, patient and unimpressed. The River Jordan appears the next afternoon like an afterthought, muddy, winding, fringed with reeds and mosquitoes the size of lentils. You expected something grand, holy, maybe glowing a little. Instead, it's damp. Still, you step in. The water is cool, silty. It soaks through your robe and clings to your skin like silk made of memory. You close your eyes and let yourself sink, just a little, imagining the layers of dust and doubt peeling away. When you surface, Bernard throws water in your face and yells, "Now you're definitely going to heaven." You splash him back. There's an old tree nearby with a rope ladder that leads to absolutely nowhere. Someone has carved a crude cross into the trunk. You sit there for a while, damp and content, swatting at flies and watching the current drift by. Later, a man with a thick accent tells a story about pilgrims who drowned here after insisting on full submersion in the name of thoroughness. Bernard nods solemnly and says, "Moderation in all things, especially holiness." You dry your clothes on a flat rock and eat a handful of salted dates. The breeze smells like warm grass and wet bark. For the first time in weeks, your muscles feel loose. Your head is quiet. You stop calculating distance. You stop missing your bed. You just are. And maybe this is what they meant all along. Not the miracles, not the relics, not the badges or scrolls or goat-scented water flasks, but this moment. After everything, just sitting here in a place where stories happened, feeling the sun on your skin and knowing you made it. There's a scholarly discussion about whether pilgrims who visited the Jordan actually experienced it with the same reverence we associate with it now. Some records describe people dunking themselves for show. Others speak of quiet weeping. But here, in this oddly peaceful afternoon, with a palm rope on your wrist and mud between your toes, you feel something real. And then Bernard sneezes directly into your dried figs. You swat him and laugh, and he says it's part of the ritual. You head back toward Jerusalem slowly, your robe still damp, and your hair full of river reeds. The sky bruises purple above the hills. Tomorrow, maybe you'll think about going home, but not yet. Not tonight. The city welcomes you back like a slow exhale. Jerusalem doesn't cheer or sparkle for your return. It simply exists, ancient and indifferent, its stones echoing with footsteps older than memory. You pass through the same gate you entered days ago, but something's different. Oh right, you're smiling. Your walk has a rhythm now, a kind of practiced ache. You know which streets slope the least, where the figs are cheapest, and which alleys to avoid unless you want to lose another spoon. The city has become, if not familiar, at least slightly less hostile. You spend the afternoon visiting the Mount of Olives. The view from the top rolls out like a tapestry of stone and history, temples, domes, and dusty paths winding through fields of memory. Bernard is unusually quiet, sketching the scene in charcoal on a scrap of parchment. It looks like a crow stepped on it. You say it's beautiful. He beams. Nearby, pilgrims climb the hillside barefoot, murmuring prayers with each step. One woman carries a candle taller than she is. Another wears a crown of thorns. Real thorns. You wince on her behalf. You meet a group of Ethiopians outside a small chapel. They sing in a language you don't know, their voices floating like incense into the air. One of them hands you a date wrapped in a fig leaf. You eat it slowly, savoring the syrupy sweetness that cuts through the dust in your throat. The Church of the Nativity in Bethlehem is next on Bernard's list. It's a short trip, but your feet protest with every mile. Still, the moment you step into the cave beneath the altar, where tradition says Christ was born, everything goes quiet again. No gold, no choirs, just the steady drip of candle wax and the muffled shuffling of pilgrims pressing hands to the stone. You touch it too. Cold, solid, real. A friar tells you, half whispering, that some scholars argue the exact spot of the birth is disputed. Others suggest the original cave might have collapsed centuries ago. But here's the thing. Nobody seems to care, because belief doesn't always need a perfect address. You nod and leave a pebble from the Jordan beside the altar. On the way back to Jerusalem, you stop by a well where an old woman sells dates and stories. She tells you of a French knight who once traded his sword for a sheep and lived out his days as a shepherd in the hills. Bernard asks if the sheep was holy. She says no, just lonely. Back in the city, the streets are fuller. Pilgrims from across the known world bustle and barter. You trade your patched cloak for a scrap of silk and a half loaf of honeyed bread. You chew it slowly, letting the sweetness sit on your tongue like a reward. That evening, you climb to the rooftop of your lodging, a worn stone guest house with uneven stairs and the occasional lizard tenant. The city sprawls below, glowing with torchlight and murmurs. You lie back on the warm stone tiles and stare at the sky. Stars blink lazily above, uncaring and endless. Your back still aches, your tunic still smells like 3 different climates, and your sandals have lost all will to live. But you're here. Really, here. There's a debated theory that the pilgrimage was less about reaching sacred sites and more about enduring them, about facing every little misery and still choosing to keep walking. You think that might be true. You close your eyes. Somewhere down the street, someone is playing a flute. Bernard is singing softly in a language you don't recognize. The air smells of warm earth, burnt oil, and something sweet. Maybe dates, maybe something holier. The days in Jerusalem begin to blur, each one a soft echo of the last. You wake to bells, you sleep to prayers, and in between you walk, through alleys and courtyards, through markets and monasteries, through memories and dust. But now it's time to leave. Not because you want to, really, but because your coin pouch is flatter than your sandals, and the monks have gently hinted twice that your stay is no longer spiritually economical. You nod, thank them, and pretend you understood that phrase. Bernard is surprisingly cheerful. The way home is shorter, he says, because you've already done it once. You stare at him, then remind him that shorter is a lie when your left foot still has that weird blister shaped like a bishop's hat. Packing is easy. You own fewer things now than when you started. 1 patched tunic, 1 half-broken sandal, a tiny wooden cross, and a seashell from someone else's beach. You no longer carry stuff. You carry stories. Before leaving, you visit one final site, a quiet corner of the city where an olive tree leans over a walled garden. No relics, no crowds, just shade and wind. You sit there for an hour, listening to the rustle of leaves and the soft hush of footsteps passing by. And then you rise. Leaving Jerusalem isn't dramatic. There's no parade, no fanfare, just the soft scrape of your footsteps and Bernard adjusting the strap of his pack for the 10th time. You pass by a group of new pilgrims just arriving. They look fresh, hopeful. Some are singing. One is already sunburnt. You smile at them but don't say anything. They'll learn. The road back begins with familiar stones, the heat, the dust, but something's changed. You don't panic when you run low on water. You know where to find that little stream past the bend. You don't curse when your pack rips again. You just tie it tighter. You've walked too far to worry about the small things now. You and Bernard fall into rhythm. Sometimes you talk. Sometimes you walk in silence, listening to the wind. Once you both laugh so hard you nearly fall into a ravine. Something about goats and sandals. It doesn't matter now. One evening, a boy by a roadside fire asks what Jerusalem was like. You pause, you think of the holy stones, the songs, the sweat, the disappointment and wonder, the fig trees, the relics, the bees, the pain, the silence of the church, the cool river water. And you say, it was worth walking for. There's an open debate among scholars about whether most pilgrims ever truly made it home again. Many died on the road. Some stayed. Some lost everything. But those who returned rarely came back the same. You know that now. Your walk home, months long, achy and slow, will never feel like the outbound journey, because Jerusalem doesn't leave you at the gate. It lingers, clings, peeks through every little crack in your routine, whispering something ancient into your every breath. You are, in the quietest sense, a different person now. And as the stars bloom overhead, and Bernard begins softly humming another hymn off-key, you know one thing for sure. You survived. Just barely. But you did. And now, as your journey fades into the hush of night, let your breath slow. Let the rhythm of footsteps and the murmur of distant prayers soften into stillness. No more roads to climb. No more stones in your sandals. No more strange stew, aggressive bees, or questionable barbers wielding ankle cloths. Just the quiet memory of long, winding paths, of cool water against sunburnt skin, of stars above a desert sky, whispering secrets older than kingdoms. Let the golden light of Jerusalem settle behind your eyelids, warm and steady, the aches of the road ebbing, replaced by the gentle weight of sleep pressing down like a wool cloak on cool shoulders. You've traveled far, further than you thought possible. You faced hunger, illness, laughter, and loss. You questioned everything, and still, you kept walking, step by step, breath by breath, from forest to mountaintop to sacred stone. Now you're home again, not the one with walls and beds, but the one within you. So rest, weary traveler. Let the last echoes of that long road to Jerusalem drift away. You made it, and now it's time to dream.